Hi, George.
All right. You're not late?
No.
Right on the moment.
Just
Well, according to the ghost of Steve Jobs, it is 8 o'clock, and we shall call the, what month is this? This is still March.
Still March.
The March
Madness.
Economic Development Committee meeting to order. I don't believe we have any business, so we don't have to worry about forums and stuff, is that right?
Okay, never mind, Chris is coming. You are correct.
Chris is coming?
Yes.
Is he nearby that we should wait? or-
Yeah, he said he'll be here in a few minutes.
All right, well then we will ask if there are any public comments this morning to be made.
Yes, I have a few words to say. Adrian Jadick, Wyomissing. I want to address the recurring structure of these economic development committee meetings, which in my view lack the thorough preparation and resident engagement that we see in neighboring municipalities. In those places, agendas and supporting documents for proposed projects are circulated well in advance, giving the public, who ultimately bears the tax burden, ample time to review the details. Moreover, local leaders there often invite open discussion rather than limit residents to a brief comment period, allowing for meaningful back and forth on issues that arise during presentations. By contrast, in Wyomissing, we routinely see presentations that offer little more than verbal updates and photo ops, and no written plans or tangible data are made accessible beforehand. This makes it nearly impossible to follow up with relevant questions or offer informed feedback. Meanwhile, staff time and public resources are spent on meetings that appear more ceremonial than productive. Some may argue these gatherings are simply meant to share conceptual updates, but even conceptual discussion can and should be supported by preliminary sketches, timelines, or feasibility data so the public knows what is truly being considered. Others may say that formal action isn't required at this stage, but neighboring municipalities still manage to detail projected next steps and produce clear takeaways for each meeting. That ensures accountability and fosters deeper community trust. I will submit with these comments the last 3 agendas, and I'm sure if I go back in 24, there's more of this. Nothing, only talk. Here, however, once the 5-minute public comment window closes, residents have no avenue to ask follow-up questions or new points that emerge, especially when fresh information is presented without warning during the meeting. I'm asking that this committee follow the example of our neighbors, publishing documents and presentations well in advance, providing robust written updates for every project, and allowing residents to engage in meaningful dialogue at each meeting. Doing so would not only elevate transparency, but also demonstrate respect for the time of borough staff, council members, and public alike. Thank you for the consideration. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. As far as I know, Wyomissing was the first municipality in Berks County to even have an economic development committee.
Fred, can I add one other comment just for the committee members that may not be aware of what happens outside of economic development?
Sure.
So economic development, normally a developer's coming here with a concept idea. They still have to go through the planning commission, potentially the zoning hearing board, and potentially council for conditional use,
Right.
which are the appropriate avenues for the general public to come and give feedback, to see the plans in advance of a meeting, and to engage in dialogue with whatever the respective board is that's reviewing the plans as to neighborhood concerns or impact on the surrounding community.
Point well made. Do any of the members of the committee have a comment on that? We can, I don't know why it's not on the agenda already, but we can have a public comment period at the end that would be available for things that were not on the agenda, and therefore comments made during the meeting would be appropriately questioned or whatever at that point.
I believe council took the position that as the chair of the committee, that is at your,
prerogative.
Well, then consider it done. All right, as far as our meeting today, we're gonna have some updates, as we always do. Hello, Chris, thank you. But we have some guests with us today. Greg Heflin is up from Philadelphia. He has coordinated things over at what is now called the Block at Wyomissing Square. And I do want to note to the committee that his organization, Brickstone, were really our first people. I mean, they're the ones that came to town at the behest of the owners of that property that they met and invited up here, and they came up and saw some potential. And it really has been the success of Wyomissing Square that has led us to many of the other projects that we've enjoyed adding to our community in the interim. So I really appreciate Greg coming up today. And Greg, I'll turn the meeting over to you to tell us what's going on and what your plans are.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As Fred pointed out, our company, Brickstone, initially was the developer for the entire Wyomissing Square. We brought in the hotel, and the previous owner had the office building and the restaurant. We envisioned the retail strip that's out there today, and Pizzuto had done the initial apartments. After we developed it, the retail sat for a little bit. We went through some different economic cycles and wanted to get the right tenant lineup, so it took longer than expected, but it got done, and I think done well and successfully. Mostly due to the participation of the borough and their foresight into investing into their own community. Michelle was a big help through all the entitlements and construction and the permitting, and without the participation of the borough, that project would not exist, I assure you that. So thank you. In about 2022, I think, well, previously to that, RP Management, Jonathan Chatley's my partner now, and RP Management bought the apartments from Pizzuto and continues to run them in a quality fashion and successfully. And he saw the vision that we saw in the retail, and so we became partners. John Connors, who I know that has been before this committee many times, myself and John and Jonathan and his company became partners in the retail. They bought from the previous owner the Viva space, and we kind of combined our retail unit 3 and the retail, the Viva unit 4 space. And so I believe in 2022, we finished the project and started turning over the space to individual tenants who then did their fit out and moved in and got their C of Os and opened up for business. Since then, I've exited a little bit of the day-to-day operations. I handled the construction, the development, and the permitting. Jonathan and his group are more on the management side and the day-to-day leasing, tenant relations, and things like that. So I'll let Jonathan speak to what's going on over there and give you an update.
There's some plans I'll pass out. I went for all 10 copies. Currently, we're 70% occupied, 76% leased. And I know the most common question we get asked all the time, what's going in the end cap space where the Viva used to be? We currently have one letter of intent for that. It's for like a sports bar concept, pizzas, burgers, 40 beers on tap. The ball's in our court for that. They're already signed the lease now, but we have a second prospect who's more of a mom and pop. They have 7 locations throughout PA, Baltimore, North Carolina. They're our #1 target for that space. We should have an answer from them next week. So hopefully by the end of April, that space will be leased out. And so it's going to be a sports bar concept, a step up from PJ's. So that's what we have for that space. And for the other vacant space, which is the 3,448 space to the right of the UPS store, we have currently 4 prospects for that. One's a rehab / PT, a chiropractor, a prepare foods to go. They sell full meal kits, which you go home, heat up. And the other concept is kind of like a stretch zone, stretch lab kind of concept. And the franchisor of that also is the brand behind Club Pilates. They're the 4 prospects for that. The issue we're having with that space, it's too big. We should have made smaller spaces. That's the feedback that everybody's telling it's too big. So whatever we do there, most likely we're going to split that space into 2 spaces. So that's the leasing update. Does anybody have any questions about who's there now or about the prospects?
What's the occupancy of the sports bar?
Sorry?
The occupancy of the sports bar?
The one prospect wants 6875. The other one actually wants more space. So if we go with the second prospect, they want a little bit over 8,000 square foot. So we'll have to push our wall back there.
So that yellow space in the back is what?
Which one, Fred?
Behind the,
That's just like a storage room right now.
so when you talk about going back.
Push it back. There's like a pillar there. We can push that back to that point.
It's mostly trash in the electrical rooms back there, so there's space to maneuver.
So you could put something else back there, though.
We could expand that space to about 8,100 square feet.
Wow.
But you wouldn't anticipate putting another tenant back there.
Oh, so we can.
Questions, anybody?
And so far, we got great feedback. Our first tenant opened up in June 2023, and that's a salon. And that location is, I think there's 100 and something salons throughout the country. That was the first one that was 100% pre-leased before they even opened up in June, and that was the first for that whole chain, so, which is a good sign. Primo's has the 3rd highest sales in the whole company. I think there's 100 plus stores, so that's a good sign.
Just ask my waistline.
Yeah, his demand is much greater than what he anticipated. On a good day, he could sell 750 hoodies a day.
And their online ordering just got so on par now. I mean,
Yeah.
It's
The Pliables, they have the number for a first-year store. They have the best sales out of the whole chain for a first-year sales. Club Pilates, they opened up in July 2023. They sold out their first space, so before they even opened, they expanded to 2 bays, which is 3,720 square feet compared to 1,860, and that was their first time in their franchise history that they sold out before they even opened up the doors. All the prospects are there, all our tenants there now are doing well, which is a good sign. And as we open up more, that's gonna help everybody out, bring in more foot traffic. On the average day, over 1,000 people will walk along that promenade to go into the tenants who are open currently.
Any sense of where they're from? Is it mainly local?
So we actually tried to get AI that actually tracks where people are coming from, but the data we're getting is skewed because of all the apartments up top. So we cut that project out to really track it.
So what's your experience been with traffic on Hill Avenue? We've gone through a couple of massages to where you can park and where you can't, and is it working, I guess?
So the only feedback we really get from our tenants are the parking could improve. We always hear from them that there should be parking on one side of Hill Avenue. And the second comment about the parking is there's a lot of people who park in the parking lot who are really not supposed to park in the parking lots. People who patronize the businesses on Penn Avenue, residents of Hill, residents who live on Reading. So all the issues we're having is really where the comments are about parking.
And you will have them, because we had that problem in West Reading. And when we started charging $1 an hour, that parking lot became almost vacant.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is.
But what we had were other people working in other businesses, apartment tenants, and people who were carpooling would bring 4 cars in and one would take off.
So we actually have a pretty detailed list of who the offenders are, but we would hate to upset people who live on Hill Avenue, Reading Avenue. So to date, we haven't towed any cars, but we sent out flyers several times, but I think it's starting to get to the point where we have to start enforcing the no parking. Because on like, right now, as I just told Greg, there's 10 illegally parked cars based on our list. There's 4 cars that belong to people who live on Hill Avenue, there's on Reading Avenue. Well, we don't really want to be said like the bad guy, but I think as we get more occupied, we're gonna have to start enforcing the no parking.
So I'm there like once a week, if not twice a week. And for what it's worth, I think it's just such a beautiful, like, just walking in there and everything, I dig it. But I'm always at Primo's and UPS and Carry Out Cafe Felino. There's like loading zones in front, right? Can we expand more like of the 15-20 minute parking up front on the one side?
I think that would help out a lot.
Because I'm just running in, I'm placing an order, or I like to, I'll get a bunch of sushi from Pina for my staff, but I just want to run in and get it. And
That's the-
UPS, especially for
Yeah.
us, it's like, well, actually my wife, not me, she's like carrying it across.
Amazon returns.
And then I get, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know there's like 1 or 2 spots for loading. I don't know if it's something that would help in situations.
That would help us out so much because Primo's has a concern that like if they had a Uber Eats or a DoorDash, a lot of those drivers don't like to pick it up because they have to park so far away. But if you had a zone out front, that would really help them out. Katie had the same concern. Pliable had the same concern. UPS had the same concern. So if we could add more loading zones, I think that'd help out our project a lot.
But unless we're willing to have police officers live on that street and ticket people who exceed 15 minutes, what's to stop people from parking there for hours?
I can tell you, every time I drive down that street, there's people parked in the no parking zone.
Correct.
Though I have noticed pedestrians are a lot better about actually using the crosswalks. In the past 2 months, every time I drive past there, I notice people intentionally going to the crosswalks versus it just used to be a free-for-all.
The crosswalks are huge.
They are.
Thank you.
And just tangentially, the UPS sign for limited parking in the parking lot
Yeah.
was knocked down the other day.
We saw that today.
Okay.
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the lot across,
Yeah.
closest to the Felino Winery, and
Yeah.
it's right in the front.
That's like the 3rd time we got knocked over on this. So we have to figure out more permanent solution down there.
I should know this, but what do the signs say now? Does it just say loading zone?
The signs on the
15
street,
loading zone.
yeah,
Because loading zone generally would be, I think, perceived as
delivery.
trucks.
Our intention
Yeah.
when we
As
put that
opposed to
into
somebody
place was
parking
for
their
delivery
car around.
trucks.
What?
Our intention when we put that into place was for delivery trucks.
That's my bad.
No worries.
Most of
Well,
our.
some people think, hey, I'm getting a sandwich, I'm loading up the car with a sandwich, you know?
Is there like a 3-hour time limit on the lots? I don't know how you would monitor that, but that would make it easier to deal with the residents that are parking there long term. Putting like a,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be monitored closely, but it would at least help you control some of that unnecessary parking.
That's a good call.
I feel like 3 hours is plenty of time to be
Oh, yeah.
at a strip. I would say 2, but then if they're having like a long dinner or something, you get 3. I don't know.
Yeah, we
It's like
moved
the
from,
Gestapo of Penn Avenue, though.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a traffic enforcement division,
right,
and it's now illegal to chalk cars.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
do.
nice.
Can't do that anymore. You're,
They park in that far lot at Penn and Reading Avenue.
Well, I think everybody's aware, but the Wyomissing Square project is a condo.
Correct.
There are, what, 5?
There's 6 condos.
But you got 2 of them, I guess, with Viva
That's
and
correct, yes. And then Jonathan owns the apartments.
apartments and then the hotel.
Hotel, yeah.
Stratus.
It's Travis, yes.
Is there any contemplation from the condo to do anything like the lot at corner where, which is largely empty?
Well, we've talked about it ourselves. for the retail. But we have not talked about it with the, I mean, the hotel guys, that's far for them. And they've got adequate parking according to what we hear, and Stratix has their own, so it probably is gonna be a retail-driven, look. But it's been talked about, yes.
And is there still anticipation of acquiring the residences across from the retail and?
We try all the time. Because we own 2 out of the 6 now. So our goal would to buy all 6 if we can, but there's 2 people who said they won't sell, and there's 2 people who want a price that doesn't make sense at this time. But our long-term goal would to be own all 6 of those properties, add additional parking, green space, and create a pad site up front, whatever would be the ultimate goal if we could purchase those 4 properties that we don't own on that hill right now. And we could add, I think you said 37 parking spots, you could add a green space, and if we want to do a pad site up front, you could do a pad site.
Yep.
But we would need to purchase those 4 additional properties, which we currently own, and that might be like a long-term project before we can get all 6.
So the other parking lot in the front's pretty vacant, where the proposed restaurant's going. Was the original Viva Brickstones, that lot's still kind of accessible, right?
Correct, yes.
Because people aren't making the walk.
People are not making the walk.
So you think maybe signage would help?
We've been
Or
telling
like
our
lighted
tenants
pathway
to
and
encourage
stuff.
people to park at all 4 lots, because we have 4 lots, but people try to stay in that one
Yeah.
lot and it gets overflowed each day. So we have been telling them to tell their customers, spread it out, there's 4 lots. But people don't wanna walk the half a block to one lot
Yes,
Yeah.
you've noticed that, yeah, and they'll drive around all day.
to try to find a spot.
We go through that in West Riddick, very bad.
But I think if, once we tenant the corner space, you'll see that lot
Fill
fill
up
up quite a
quickly.
bit. And then everybody will kind of figure it out as they go.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, can we interest you in anything else in the borough?
So like what?
You want that wall?
Plenty of parking.
Has underground parking.
You hear about that, Rick?
We've looked at that, we're, there's a lot of opportunity here that we continue to look at.
Yeah.
Well, we're delighted to have you, and we appreciate, what you did to get us off and running in our economic development activities. I know we were interrupted by the Great Recession and then the pandemic, but you wanted to make the block special, and you stuck to your guns and didn't fill up with a Family Dollar store or something.
We could have filled up that project 10 times over again, but we are very selective with who we're gonna rent the space to, which kind of hurt us, but we wanna do what's best for the borough and like the 240 apartments above.
Well, it's much appreciated, and we're delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
Just as, if I may, Fred, as you know, was it last year or the year before, we had DCD here?
Last year.
Last year. And just the walking tour and meeting all the tenants, they were generally impressed. And hearing the comments on how well that everyone worked with the borough and the borough worked with them, and how things got moving quickly. And once we got to that point, and but yeah, the state was very impressed and was going to pass on some of the experiences here to other places that are having problems.
Great.
So,
There is a proposal in motion now for another apartment building in front of where the Metropolitan Building is, which
Yes.
is another, Michelle, help me, how many units in there, 60?
60, I think.
60.
And that can't hurt your retail, right?
Could only help.
It would be wonderful.
Well, we gotta keep a close watch on the parking thing. I mean, it seems to me that just changing the signage from loading zone to
Drop offs.
10-minute drop-off thing or something like that.
We can't, it was adopted by ordinance, so I think we'd have to revise the ordinance.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm just floating the idea here, we can take it to fire and police. What would that require, Chris? Anything, is that a hearing and everything else for the ordinance?
No, it's not a hearing, but it's an ordinance, just an amendment to the traffic regulations.
Do you think that's worthwhile pursuing?
I think it is.
I think it's worth a discussion, for sure.
I mean, it seems like there's people just doing it anyhow, but,
We have time to get that on,
No, we don't. It's
oh,
less
5
than
days.
three, but it's less than 3 business days.
Is it,
Today's Thursday, that's what I mean, okay.
is there any way to try something temporarily? I'm frankly skeptical that people are going to leave once they park. My guess is that even if it says it's for 15 minutes, they're gonna stay as long as they wanna stay, and that it's not gonna work unless we have parking enforcement, which we
You know.
are not gonna do. So, I'd certainly support trying it, but I
Can I
would wanna
do a
change
mayor's-
an ordinance and keep doing open.
Yeah,
can I
yeah,
do a
yeah,
mayor's
okay,
proclamation to
advertising,
change
yeah.
it temporarily, Chris?
Well, we do have a provision that allows for temporary regulations. I think the mayor's proclamation may only be for emergencies, so this is not an emergency. This is more of a temporary experimental regulation. I think that requires a resolution of council to do that. But it can be done. We can,
We could actually do that if it's a resolution. I could potentially throw it under my manager's report. If this committee would support it going straight to council and not going through F&P, since we don't have time to talk about it at Monday's F&P, it would hold off until the April F&P meeting and then make council.
We really should have the input of those two. That really ought to go.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to hold it a month to run it through the appropriate committees and get
Yeah,
the chief of police opportunity to weigh in somewhere.
That makes sense.
Understood.
I think you're gonna have a challenge with people leaving, like Janice said, and is there a way to just change 1 or 2 of those spots to like, pick up, not like a 15-minute, but like a deliveries, I don't know, how to, just for like your Ubers or your people running in?
Yeah, but again, it would have to be done permanently by ordinance.
Right. It's not gonna cost money.
Maybe we could amend the sign to say, pick up and we really, really mean it.
Write that in red Sharpie?
Well, we'll consider that.
I'll keep you posted, Greg,
Yeah.
as to the
How
date
many
of that
spots are there now that are
April
available?
meeting.
Do you want us to appear at F&P?
Well, I was gonna say, even if you
And
just
how
wanna
many
call in,
spots
it saves you the
are
trip, but
Just 2.
I'll keep you both posted.
So instead of
Yeah.
changing like from loading,
That's
can you
great.
just add,
If the
add
date would be,
Well, we could, that's, Jen is suggesting that maybe there ought to be a couple more than just
I-
2.
I
think if
would,
we have a total of 4, I think that would be like perfect, ideal.
I would still consider leaving them loading zones, like,
April 20th
I think that's totally acceptable.
at noon.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, like I park in loading zones, unless it says like deliveries, unless it says deliveries not in the borough. Unless it says deliveries only, I don't know, if it's a loading zone, that's,
I think
that's
when we did the
understood.
loading zone, we, you know, we're figuring like US food service trucks, you know, the 18 wheelers
Oh, I'm
coming
figuring
in
I'm
for
loading the
trailers, that's why.
food
I
into
think
my
that we have
car,
to get 2.
you know, it's just, you're just loading something in or out.
But we're also,
Yeah.
we're also,
Getting creative with the,
we're also.
You like my loading zone? I think that's how I interpret the law.
I just drove back from DC last night.
So I just feel like if we add more
Hey,
spots.
one meeting at a time. One meeting.
If we take it from 2 to 4, that's gonna be beneficial.
All around DC, the signs say loading flashes.
Because I'll know firsthand.
I drove into Washington DC yesterday, came back last night, empty. There's no parking. Anytime you're stopping, you have to have your flashers. Signage.
Hey, everybody, let's have one meeting here. We're just making a point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just saying, I drove into DC yesterday and came back last night, and all the signage, it just hit me, says flashers must remain on when pulled over. And, you know, it's a 15-minute spot, you keep your flashers on, you'll know who's there for a while, but I just realized, like, you can't really park anywhere. Like, I was just dropping off relatives from, it was a long day. And, you know, every time you pulled over, there are spots where you pull over, it says flashers must remain on, you know, when you're pulled over in certain areas. So I don't know if that's something that you put on some sort of signage up front that, you know, you're just running in and out. You're not literally parking, saying hi to your friend upstairs, or grabbing a quick lunch. So it's,
Yeah, one minute loading zone, I put mine on.
yeah,
Just sort of, that way they kind of know.
yeah, that's because you have common sense.
I'm
Didn't
also,
realize.
I'm also concerned about a loading zone if a sports bar is going in. I mean,
Yeah.
going in to get a load on.
I should own a restaurant. Got good branding ideas. It's, good name. It's a good name for a sports bar, the loading zone.
Yeah.
All right, anybody have any other comments about the block? Well, gentlemen, we really appreciate your coming in. Let me know if I can. either of you
Great, thank you. Thank you, Fred.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good to see
everyone.
you.
It's good to
Thanks
see
for coming.
everybody. Thank you
Yeah,
again
thank
for having us.
See you.
Say hello-
Chris.
say hello to Don.
Here, I see you.
Okay, we got two regular requests,
Okay.
questions, like, to me, that's one of two things happening, it's refi or?
Refi.
Okay.
Okay.
I was hoping for a transfer back, sorry,
Ah, sorry about
that's okay.
Thanks, Michelle.
In like 10 years, I'll do that.
Always.
Take care.
Same.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, take care.
It's busy.
All right, next up, we have some of our usual updates on old business. I would offer one myself. Along State Hill Road, the Berkshire Restaurant, former owners, I understand Felino Builders is putting their display, showroom, et cetera, in that space. So it's at the moment not gonna be a restaurant, but where you go to decide which kitchen you wanna put in your new house or something. My understanding is also that they consider it to be temporary. That I think the intention is still going to be to pursue tearing it down and putting up a multi-story apartment building with some kind of retail on the ground level.
So, there's, I don't know what's going on. I mean,
Yeah.
it's advertised.
Yeah,
as
they're saying
Wyomissing
April
Bistro.
1 they're opening.
As a
Um,
bistro.
Yeah,
On Facebook.
Wyomissing Bistro.
And I don't know, I mean,
That's what I heard.
Bill
Yeah.
brought it to my attention a week or so ago,
The staff
and
did.
I was like, we have
We
absolutely
knew nothing about it.
no certificates of occupancy, no zoning permits, no building permits, no nothing for it to be a restaurant. And then I saw the coming soon sign for Felino showroom went up this week.
I don't know if it's like a pop-up kitchen or.
Well, my information, quite honestly, came from our code enforcement people who've been over there doing inspections, and that's what they were told.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I don't know if you saw the coming soon sign for the showroom went up this
Yeah.
week.
Well,
Yeah.
I've seen it in traffic, and I didn't have time to pull into the lot and read it, you know, better. So I saw a sign, but I didn't really.
Well, they're advertising 10 waitresses, 2 bartenders, 2 managers, 2 hostesses, and 6 line cooks.
Did they give a phone number?
Yeah, there's a webpage, Facebook page,
I'm
they're
not on
opening
Facebook.
April 1st.
Wow. April 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's next week.
That's Tuesday.
WymissingBistro@gmail.com.
Why am I missing
There you go.
bistro?
Good point, Ron. April Fool's joke.
Well,
Oh. That's pretty nasty.
we will
joke.
look into it. We'll look into that
Why
further
missing
and find out.
bistro
what
at
we can-
gmail.com?
Yeah, that's what
What
it
we
says
can.
on here.
Yeah,
McKinley.
I mean, my main point to them is going to be if you're actually doing this, you have no approval to do it whatsoever.
She said, you mean
I
I
haven't
was
heard anything. Even my staff just said what's going on.
Well, we'll look into it, and maybe we could we'll do an email to the committee to let you know what we find out in the next couple of days.
Would be a nice restaurant, but.
And along those lines, have we heard anything further from PennDOT as to finalizing what they're doing with State Hill Road?
We've not heard a peep.
That's kind of throwing some sand in the gears. Meanwhile, of course, we're all very much concerned about the mall. And there have been expressions of interest from developers in addition to the one that had an actual agreement. That agreement, as we all, I think, know, ground to a halt with their due diligence period, finding a great deal of deferred maintenance. In addition to the purchase price, made it economically unrealistic for that developer. And at the moment, at least, the owners haven't gotten realistic, I guess I'll say. In the meanwhile, there was another suspected sinkhole that opened up along
It's actually in the Gavion Wall along State Hill Road.
along State Hill Road.
At the corner of an existing stormwater inlet. It's about 2 feet wide by 4 feet deep.
And that's an area that isn't currently fenced off, so it's the adventures with the storm sewer system continue.
Well, I think it's important to give an update on the court hearing on Monday for committee members. So there was a status conference hearing on Monday in front of Judge Feudeman. I described it to some people as watching for an hour and 20 minutes a very angry parent berate their teenager that epically screwed up. She was not at all pleased with the representatives from NAMDAR that participated by phone or their complete lack of completing any of the 5 items she had required by court order at the February status conference hearing. So since they all were giving various reasons for things not being completed, including, well, we have to run this up the food chain and we don't have the authority and et cetera, she issued a court order that Eagle Namdar must personally come to the next hearing on April 9th at 10 a.m. If he does not, he will not only be found in contempt, she will also issue an order that the borough has the right and will be making all the repairs for the mall. When she initially brought that up during the hearing, Michelle Mayfield from Chris's office and I had previously spoke about my concern there is we're talking $2-3 million in repairs. Judge fully understands that she would require them to post bond or escrow for 110%, which under the municipality's planning code, we can require them to do. Additionally, because it's not our money, we would not have to put the project out to bid. I would assume we'd still have to get Chris 2 or 3 bids to make sure we're doing it for a reasonable cost. Yes. So April 9th, we have that hearing, and then April 10th, we're in front of Judge Taylor for the 10 non-traffic citations I filed for all of the outstanding code issues. So stay tuned. Something else we talked about after that hearing, Michelle, Glenn Kraft, Jeff Hogue, Jim McCarthy, and I don't know at what point it's appropriate to ask the court for some type of potential compensation back to the borough, but between legal fees, engineering time, and code enforcement, Kraft's office alone has over 200 hours in on this. So assuming we get a court order in our favor and or they are found guilty of doing these things, and that's part of our argument that we're gonna make to Judge Taylor, is we're asking for maximum fines because the amount of fees the borough's incurred to get to this point in the process because of enforcement notices, in some cases issued 18 months ago, that have still not been complied with.
So we didn't file for contempt of the February order, because if we filed for contempt, she should order attorney's fees and expenses.
My understanding was that's her call to make, not ours.
Now, you request, I mean, normally we file a petition to find somebody in contempt.
My recollection is that we've requested that relief, but these are all like interim orders up to this point.
Where is it ordered?
Right, but, I mean, I think the bringing up the status of how much expense has been incurred in this enforcement action, I think it is appropriate to push that point to the judge.
Also for contempt, they can jail somebody.
Now, would that go through district justice or?
He's a
or
pretty
who-
violent
who do
thing
that?
to
Well,
Yeah.
the judge next to Feudum.
My understanding is that at this upcoming hearing that Mr. Namdar himself is supposed to
Well,
appear.
that's what I said, the court order is for him to personally
And
appear.
that's
I'd like to make a bet on that.
Yeah, but then the bench warrant.
Have a bench warrant issued.
She could, she absolutely.
I mean, Taylor's office almost did that because of the no response to, so when I file the citations, his office then sends the paperwork out to the defendant, they have 10 days to reply to the summary as to whether they're going to plead guilty and pay the fine, or not guilty, request a hearing. He didn't reply, and it was very close to going to a bench warrant.
Well, hopefully this is going to come to a head in relatively near future finally. But, as I've somewhat facetiously have said before, I'm hoping that the current owners are so sick of hearing the word Wyomissing that they get real in their sale pricing and unload it. There are probably, half a dozen different developers that have expressed interest, and these are people that we have some experience with that can do such a thing and reinvent the place. An ongoing concern of mine, it has always been piecemeal, that somebody, we know that there's one organization that wants to do a Wawa in the corner where the mobile gas station had been, which I think is a good thing for that vicinity. But that's on hold because of the PennDOT plans. There have been a couple of different people over the years that have expressed interest in the other end of the mall where the former Sears Auto Center was, ranging from auto dealers to other such things. And I really cringe at the idea of piecemeal and not having an overall idea of what's going to happen here.
You can plan.
But at this point, that's about as much as we can say, I guess. Is there anything further, Michelle? So the other nearby,
Are there larger safety concerns from the recent sinkhole where it's not fenced off?
I mean, it's down where the substation is.
Okay.
It's down at that area, but I mean, it's gonna be brought up. They've been made aware of it. They've been made aware they need to fix it sooner than later. It's going to definitely be brought up, but not next week, the following week's court hearing. But I mean, we had to get a court order for them to put a fence up around the rest of the property. We can't force them at this point to do anything other than you need to fix it.
Okay.
has the area where this new sinkhole is been part of the area that has been televised?
No, we've told them from day one, and the court order told them since November, they need to televise every underground stormwater line on the property. They, for whatever reason, have misconstrued that to think they only need to do, if you think of the building in the center and you would just draw like a ring around it, they, for whatever reason, think they only need to do that ring. So it's like 60% of the property's actually been televised, 40% has not. Jim McCarthy said if he had to give an estimate to repair what he's seen from the 60% that has been done, it's $1 million. Assuming the condition of the remaining pipe is in the condition of what he's seen, at another $1 million. And then the roof on the bonton and the facade is $500,000 to $750,000.
So why is this not a distress problem?
Because the taxes are paid, the utilities aren't shut off, it doesn't qualify for the conditions for blight.
It seems like the problem you're gonna have there is the more we tell NAMDAR it's gonna cost millions, the more NAMDAR is not gonna fix it because they wanna sell it, and they don't wanna sell it to somebody without them paying the $2 million that we expect to get if we fix it.
So somebody asking for exponential amounts of money, more than it's worth, is not serious about wanting to sell it.
Well, he wants to sell it.
That's not how
But
you
he
sell
doesn't
it.
want to sell it and pay $2 million to the borough. He wants to sell it to somebody who wants to build something on it, which is gonna cost them money to buy it to start with.
Then have a reasonable asking price.
Actually, he doesn't wanna sell
he
it right
doesn't-
now.
Well, that's right.
He's still soaking it dry, you know.
Michelle, how many of these sites does he own across the country?
It's over 100.
Oh, yeah, he's.
Yeah, I thought it was in the 80s, so he's learned how to
Yes. Suck
procrastinate.
every penny.
He
Yeah,
does this
something
every place.
He's now doing this also with, office buildings in Manhattan. He has the cleaning crews in, and that's pretty much it. And
Yep.
even they're not getting paid, or they're at minimum staff, so the office buildings themselves are looking like crap.
Chasing the ghost.
Well, in the meantime, there is a sign along Stateville Road in front of Boscov's with a commercial real estate company. It's actually the firm that our friend John Pacino, who comes in here and updates us on the market occasionally, his firm, a couple of agents in his firm have been engaged to lease space. It's not an indication that the mall is for sale, although I guess it is, but rather to try to do some leasing. That's what it is. It can't hurt us, but it's not a solution to the problem at all. Well, the other property in the vicinity that is on our radar, of course, is the former Sheridan, Crown Plaza, Radisson, et cetera. And we don't know anything.
That went before the county's blighted property review committee on Tuesday, and that was simply to send the first strike letter to the property owner. So, assuming they don't respond and do nothing, we're still probably 12 months away from eminent domain, county taking it, anything actually happening. I mean, that's a very lengthy process for obvious reasons. You're potentially taking someone's property from them. And, you know, I've seen sitting through those hearings over the years, if the owner shows up and does have any type of remediation plan or shows good faith effort that they're doing something to remediate the property, the committee's generally agreeable to giving them additional time. So far, nobody from ownership management has showed up to the January hearing or the March hearing, so.
And I'm sure that those notices are sent certified, so they gotta.
Yeah,
can't
certified
say
in.
they don't know.
Certified in first class.
Well, you know, we've had a great deal of success in renewing portions of the community for, you know, as I've often described it, where our focus, borough government is on our residents. And to give them a wonderful place to raise a family and live and all that stuff, but it's commercial stuff that pays the bills. And, as time has gone by, we've evolved from Wyomissing Industries to the outlets, now the knitting mills along with Wyomissing Square, nearby the Metropolitan, and now another one over there. So I think that we can say that there's been a lot of progress, but the mall and the hotel are great concerns, and we gotta just stay on top of them.
Oh, we got 3 of our main tax bases that, you know, are just sitting, they're just sitting, you know, quite frankly. And, you know, we're in competition like every other municipality. You know, we want and we welcome these businesses to come to Wyomissing, but, you know, the current state, boy, it sure is difficult.
But in the meantime, I mean, as we all know, the office spaces on Berkshire Boulevard and so on are doing okay. I mean, there's some space available, but that's kind of normal. There's a lot of uncertainties in the overall economy right now as the new administration takes root, and threats of tariffs and all the rest. There's a lot of business people that are kind of sitting on their hands to see how things are going to flesh out before they make decisions for the long term.
Fred, do you hear any scuttlebutt on Joanne Fabric at all?
Well, no, I mean, the company nationally is going belly
Oh,
up.
yeah,
So
their shelves
the
are
space
pretty
is
empty.
gonna be available. Now, that particular complex is actually also a condo. Those, 5, is it? Whatever, 4 or 5 spaces are condominiums. We adjusted, initiated at this committee actually, some years ago, changing the requirement for how much parking must be made available for retail space. The standard in the industry had long been 5 spaces for every 1,000 square feet, and we adjusted it to 4. And part of my intent in suggesting that was there's the parking lot at this wood mill complex where Joanne Fabric is. You know, there's a driveway that comes in off of Woodland Road, and then it's kind of an L-shaped thing. A portion of it toward Woodland Road, I don't know that there's ever been a car parked in it. And I just look at that and say, why isn't there a restaurant or a bank or something in this parking lot? So part of adjusting the requirement for parking would make that possible. But my understanding is the condo owners think that now you're gonna block the view of their stores from Woodland Road, and that would be a bad thing. Which I think a one-story thing there, as I look at it, every time I go through there, I try to envision it. And I just don't think it's a legitimate concern, finding those stores. But, you can lead the horse to water, you know, but, so it's, that sort of thing is available. But, otherwise, what else do we have for updates, Michelle? Anything?
The Inn at Reading?
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean,
No, we're, I think, reaching an impasse with
Yeah.
regard to progress on, the developer moving forward. And, I wanna talk to council about that at our next council.
Has a certificate of occupancy.
no, in addition to, we are owed more than 24,000 in outstanding legal fees, engineering fees,
And how long has that amount been owed?
January. I mean, so my point to Jim McCarthy and I had a conversation last week. I asked him to follow up with Chris. He did. My point is, I feel like I've gotten mixed messages in terms of there's a bit of a divide in terms of let it go, do something. I would prefer the decision be made by council, so there will be a motion under my report at the April council meeting as to how we proceed.
Well, the most common reason for a commercial venture to fail is being undercapitalized, and I think that's what we have here. And in my understanding, as we consider plans and go through all of our processes to reach the point of approvals, there's no ability for us to be able to ask for financials and say, you got the money to do this?
He has a $7.5 million mortgage.
So it's unfortunate. Owner's a nice person, I think well-intentioned, but unfortunately. So we'll see where we go. I always offer the opportunity to our pals from West Reading to tell us anything that might be happening
This pal
down the
has to
street.
leave, unfortunately, he has a patient coming in. So I'm gonna head out.
Quickly tell us what you think.
Well, Nick is the one you need to talk to.
All right.
Well, we have parking issues too, so we, I don't know that we can really keep parking enforcement officers, we've been, it's been a challenge, so.
Yeah.
We had our Chili Fest, which was a good little event, brought in a little over 100 people, second year, so, you know, businesses were happy. We have Craft Pretzel and Beer coming up, that's the end of the month, April 26th, we have 3 blocks, we shut down for that one, we'll get, hopefully weather permitting, last year we got a little over 10,000 people, 7th year, so it's gaining momentum. Art on the Avenue, we're gonna open up registration for that, I get calls nonstop from people wanting to get in it, from musicians, everything, it's like, I just check my email and it's like crazy, and our music is booked for the whole year. We're gonna start up second Fridays in May, so we're gonna have 5 weeks there where we kind of like a summer concert series. We're gonna do it right behind Legacy. That's something our foundation does. You know, it's just a way to bring people in, and then, you know, I can tell the businesses, we'll get them in there once they come into your store. You got to try to keep them, you know. And then, but the goal is to get them in there. So, but everything else, we're moving along. Things are going good. We just we had a DCED grant that I inherited. So we have all new lights that are going on the avenue. We initially thought, and there was some confusion, and Mark and I met with the rep, there's lights that they've replaced that are white. They appear when you're driving in, they appear to be brighter when you're looking up at them, but when you go under them, what's called the lux, it only goes so far. The ones they're replacing are the yellow ones. They actually look a little dingier, but when you're driving in, they're not blinding you as much, and then if you're in a second floor apartment, they're not as bright. When you go under those, and the guys actually had the meters, it's like if the light, it spreads out so much more. So from just a security standpoint, you know, now that we're getting a lot busier, we know with the Reading Motor Club open up, you're gonna get people that are at Barley, they wanna walk down there, so having these lights with the nicer weather, so we're excited for that. Schweitzer's is moving along, I know they're gonna, hopefully we can use that for Art on the Avenue, because we need the space. But everything is moving along pretty good, we're getting ready for my busy season.
I thought I was getting old. I drove down the other night. I told Lenny, I'm like, boy, I gotta do something about some lighting around here. Mix match. I was like, oh God, I'm training with my father.
Yeah, the light, they're all in the Schweitzer station. They were delivered. So KT and the guys, they're slowly doing them now. I guess, you know, they know weather's not really an issue with snow. They're not mowing yet, so he's trying to get the guys to get those done, because then, you know, once they get into their mowing season, they're busy every day.
How are you doing as far as occupancy?
We're pretty good. We do have one space that's gonna be where the gem on Penn is, that's gonna be coming for sale, that building. He's actually moving. He doesn't own the building, but he's moving, but that's gonna be a pretty, popular property, I would think. The one across the street, I saw that
No,
just.
wait, which one is that?
Gem on Penn, he is 600 block. If you're looking at Baldwin Hardware, he's like maybe 3 to the left of that one. It's a pretty good sized space, but the owner does want to sell it, so the tenant's relocating. I know we have some stuff. Tina has some stuff available down around like the 400 block. She tells me she gets calls all the time. People, I'll pay a year up front in cash, and Tina is in a position where she can be very selective, and a lot of the people that have reached out to her, she doesn't. They're not a good fit for the other businesses. So, but outside of that, I know the old Sugar Shack, that's still vacant. The challenge there is he wants the first and second floor. If it was just the first floor, he could rent that thing out in a week. But it's a big number, and having the upstairs, what are you going to do with it? So it's that one's been sitting vacant since the summer. But outside of that, everything else is pretty good.
Have we heard anything from anybody in the spring about
Other than that project's moving very quickly and shovels are gonna be in the ground sooner than later. That's the only recent update I heard.
Yeah, I asked Dean last week, and, he said within 4 weeks, the shovels will be in the ground.
Where's that at? Where?
Across from Target.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anybody have anything else that they'd like to bring before the committee? If not, then using the enormous powers I have as chair, I will ask if there are any closing public comments.
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah, you technically can't do it yet because it's not on the agenda.
I'm the emperor here, and well, we haven't heard of any.
Boy,
No,
everybody else we
I
get
would,
chastised.
but you guys have to make up your minds if I can speak or not.
Yes.
Okay, well then.
The zone.
So, thank you, first of all. So, to go in order, I want to thank Rick for, considering to give me the plan. It's really nice. Second, Mayor, I appreciate you do this. I also want to remind you that I've been asking for this for 6 years. And,
Wheels of government turn slowly.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, sir. But that's really slow. So, what can I say? I hope this goes better. Also, what I would like to see, hopefully faster than 6 years, is you speaking against the abuse I got from Councilman Jenks, or Council President.
Does that have anything to do with this committee?
Yeah, it's okay. Can I please not be interrupted? And so many times that, just like now, he interrupted. He even cut my comments short with some sort of clock that he pretends he has there, but if you look on the video, it was way under 5 minutes. So I think it's time that we speak against that. Okay? In terms of my comments, Michelle, and Michelle's comments regarding how the process is, I don't think she understood my comments. That was exactly what I was saying, that other municipalities at the economic development meeting, and these papers just prove it. These papers just showed up at the meeting. That's what I was trying to say, Michelle. Right? So, exactly. We prepare this and we do some plan of action.
I've never seen this plan before today.
That was the problem. That was when I was
But
saying.
it was brought by the
Developer.
developer.
Well, then let's ask them. That's my point. Okay, let's ask them to present this. So this is what I'm saying. Let's have productive. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is what's happening. You view it more into an open discussion, and I appreciate the opportunity to give my feedback, and I promise you next time I'll prepare more stuff, but My call was, okay, let's bring these things more to the table, try to focus instead of sitting here for 1 hour and there's no action, okay? So that was my point. I hope you take my point. If you want, I can
And I'll-
explain it more.
I'll
Okay.
consider action on that within this 6-year timeframe.
Yes, within the 6-year time, sir. Yes, thank you so much. Okay? So that's the point. I appreciate the opportunity.
Because of the circumstances, I've given some latitude in these ending comments today. This will not be repeated though. We're gonna have closing comments pertaining to what may have been presented by a developer or whatever, the business of this community. We will welcome that, but we're not gonna get into these other unsundry debates. So, is there anything further from the committee that anyone would like to bring up? If not, we shall stand adjourned. Thank you for being here. Thank you.